of all, let me apologize on behalf of the Governor, Mr. Ajitniwar Cabral, uh, for his inability to join this event today in the morning due to some urgent, some other commitment. Anyway, I think he's very passionate about this. I can remember the last time he was here to deliver the keynote address, and on behalf of the governor, I would like to convey his congratulations and best wishes for the session. And also, let me thank the organizers for allowing me to come here. Obviously, I'm not may not be a very eloquent speaker like the governor, as you all know, is one of the best communicators in this country. Let me just, first of all, congratulate Work in Sri Lanka organization for this excellent work. I think that's very useful. And I can see kind of work that they have been doing. And as a person who has also some experience in making those decisions, I will share that experience later if I have time. My task is here to give you a public sector vision on new opportunities and new era. So let me start with the example now. I'm not going to talk about all the overall macroeconomic numbers, use kind of boring stuff. Usually when professional economists come to stage, people tend to sleep because we are all talking about the GDP numbers, inflation, fiscal deficits, all these things. I'm sure this audience may not be interested in that. Briefly, I can tell you, as mentioned earlier, last about 10 years, overall macroeconomic situation has improved a lot in this country in terms of overall GDP, inflation, living standards, poverty, unemployment. If you look at all these numbers, I think we can be satisfied that overall economic management and in terms of economic progress, we have made a good progress. That's on the economic front. And also on the other side, on the peace and stability. Now what we see in a much more peaceful, much more high living standard, much more better infrastructure, better environment friendly, and all things, as I can see, has improved. And as already mentioned, obviously there are a lot of areas that need to improve. There's no doubt that any country, if you have seen countries how their countries have moved forward, at the low level of economic development, at low level of per capita incomes, what you focus and what you would like to have first economic development. And once you reach a certain level of income, then people are concerned about all the other things, like the governance, all the infrastructure, the issues, and the ethics, all these things. That's what you see in any country in transition. That's what we see even here now. If you look at 10, 15 or last several elections, if you look at what are the key themes, and I can remember those days in 1970s, even every election manifesto, major theme is that we will give you something after the election, 2 kilos of rice or 8 pounds of, some kind of thing, and those are the needs of the people during those days. That's why those things have become politically very influential factors. That's understandable because of the low income, and majority of people would want that kind of basic things. Now, once country come to a certain stage, and when people's per capita income goes up, then people have different expectations. That's why now people are demanding better governance, better political systems, better roads, better infrastructure, even better transportation. That's, in fact, even without talking about numbers, you can see that transition. That is proof of that we have developed to a certain extent. That journey will continue. And as you have already seen in countries that you have been living, but people's values are different. That's because their other basic stuffs are basically, they are much better. They don't have to worry about this. Then you are starting worrying about different things. I think we can see that transition taking place. That's a very good development. And even going forward, now we are at a level where per capita income is close to just about $3,300, and it will be about $3,700 by the end of this year, by the end of 2014. So if you compare this country with similar level of countries, you would have seen similar issues that has been coming up, even politically and economically. And if you look at the countries like India, it's still very low per capita income. I can remember there was my daughter's friend, Indian girl, who is studying, doing a PhD at Harvard, an Indian origin. This girl, my daughter's friend, who studied at Maryland, was here last week, and we took her around. And after 1 week, what she said to us was that this is a fantastic country, beautiful country. If she had a choice to become a citizen of another country, I would choose Sri Lanka as her second country. So that's kind of expectation. That's kind of expectation that this girl, while living in India for a long time and looking at India's situation or kind of environment, then she was quite impressed. That's what I am sure that you people here, these young people here, also would have the expectations and the aspiration of what are the living standards that anyone would want to be in a country where they are going to live. So I think that tells us some story. Let me just talk about the opportunities in economic terms for anyone to come and work in a country. So in my view, that they need to find a good opportunity based on their qualification, experiences, and they need to have a reasonable level of living standards and some reasonable income. So what are the opportunities to look at in Sri Lanka and what will be going forward? If you look at Sri Lankan economy, for example, we opened up the economy in 1977. And from that point up to, for example, now last couple of years, we have earlier it was predominantly agriculture-centered economy. And our share of GDP in agriculture was that time back in 1977 maybe about 20-25%. That has come down to 11%. And as any emerging economy, service sector has expanded. It's about 60% of the economy. That's where the large number of employment opportunities are. And the industry sector also is almost 28% of GDP. It has also been expanding. Share has been expanding. And also, if you look at the employment or job opportunities, still in Sri Lanka, 30% of the workforce still is employed in the agriculture sector. Majority is low-paid agriculture workers. Although the contribution is only 10%, still 30% are employed there. And then we have a growing industry and services sectors, where people, I'm sure private sector people will tell you, there's a shortage of employment in certain sectors. Now, if you look at the garment sector, there was a period you can find a lot of people or young girls who are willing to work in the garment sector. Now, hardly many girls are now looking to work in that sector. Some are coming from rural areas. And even the construction and tourism sector. I spoke to someone in the leading construction firm owner last week. So with the developments, you can see different sectors are emerging as new sectors. What we have seen already, tourism and construction sectors are sectors that has already emerged as new employment generation sectors. And we find a lot of shortage of employment in those sectors. For example, if you look at the construction sector, the structural engineers, architects, quantity surveys, even low-level technical people, there's a huge shortage of people. And then that is where the country's education system is now being focused to generate a lot more technically qualified people. That is where, even if you have some qualification and experience, come and grab those opportunities here. In the tourism sector, we know it's a huge growing sector. So a lot of investments are taking place. And that is where we will still need a lot more people, will find a lot of employment in that sector. And not only those sectors, if you're going forward, uh, if you look at the country's vision for 2020, so for any country to grow, now we have seen last couple, about 5, 10 years, 5, 6 years, on average, country has, GDP has been growing around, in real terms, has been growing on average more than 7%. And that is why we have seen per capita incomes have gone up to that level. And we would like to maintain that level even going forward up to 2020. For that, we need to have a diversified economy. We can't rely on the same kind of sectors that has provide employment, that has provide growth for next 10 years. That is where the government is focusing on, partly to diversify the overall economic activities, promote new emerging sectors. That is where what we call 5 hubs plus 1, that is tourism. And also there may be another new sectors coming up going forward. For example, health sector. When you see a lot of people incomes are higher, when you have aging population, that is where you see a lot of opportunities in the health sector, health services, caring services. There are a lot of demand. And one example on the 5 hubs, I will just mention about, I think a lot of people have heard about this new economic vision that has been articulated by the central bank and also by the government, and where we would like the private sector to have business, to have a lot more opportunities, where Sri Lanka can be competitive in a global environment, is portrayed looking at the strategic location of Sri Lanka, and with the peaceful environment, we have a lot of potential in the port and airport services, in the tourism, in the knowledge services, given that we have a lot of well-educated youth, those are highly IT literacy, very good English-speaking people, and very good educated young people. So we have at a relatively cheaper cost compared to our competitors, and also the knowledge services. Now you can see in the past, I mean, the period that we were going to school, we had only public schools. There are huge competitions for us to get in private schools. And there are no private universities at all. It's all state universities. Only 10% of the people would have been able to go to those universities. That is why a lot of other people like you went abroad and got higher education there. Now we have a lot more opportunities even in education. You have, in parallel to government schools, you have private sector schools. In parallel to state education, competing with them, you have private universities. Not only for education, then that would also provide opportunities for people who are coming back here for teaching, research, and make contribution. One of the issues that we see in this country, in the university system, is that there are a lot more focus only on curriculum and teaching, not very much focused on the innovation, research, and that kind of stuff. So that is where people who have educated abroad can come back, make contributions, not only in the government university, but also in the private sector universities. There are a lot of opportunities, and also in the medical sector, health sector. We have very good competitive health sector here. People can come here and work, even doctors, all the techniques can come here and work. Those opportunities will be more in the future. Those are the new emerging areas going forward, in addition to already booming real sector construction. And also other area is the commercial hub, where now we have 2 areas that we have demarcated for free trade areas in Colombo, close to Colombo port, and also in Hambantota, close to the airport and ports. There can be a lot of international business take place in those areas. Will come value add and export. We are also trying to be a lot more export-oriented economies, not only export of goods, but also export of services in terms of IT services, BPO services, knowledge services, value additions, and trying to become part of the value chain. If you look at even any product, if you take the iPhone, as you all know, you can see this iPhone is produced by using, more than 10 countries are joined in the supply chain. One in Taiwan, one in China, one in Malaysia, one in Indonesia. Likewise, that is kind of a advantage when you have technological innovations and you have good educated people. You can be part of global supply chain. So that's where we are trying to promote. That's where the people with international good education can make contribution, can bring these businesses here. It's not only the employment that you are looking for when you come here, it's also business opportunities. I know people who are living abroad, you have seen different kind of business opportunities, how they do business here, how the corporate governance and all these issues, how they manage companies. And then you can come here with ideas, not only for finding employment, you can start off as an entrepreneur. We also encourage that part of business here. For example, now we are now developing a new kind of private equity funds. The first of such kind was launched recently by the NDB Investment Bank, and there will be a lot more come to that kind of funds. Basically, the idea is to people who have good entrepreneurial ideas, and they will fund with a good idea. If they don't have capital, they will support, create the company and build up to a certain level, and then once you come to a certain level, they exit from the company, then they bring in all technology, innovations, and the governance, and they help them to grow up. So that's also one of the areas that people who would have entrepreneurial skills can come and develop established companies here. Another one is the financial hub that we are working on. We are working with a firm who has a very reputed firm globally to develop Sri Lanka as a financial hub. For example, like banking, financial services. Given the location and the peaceful environment of the country, there are a lot of companies who are willing and looking at coming and establishing their financial regional centers in Sri Lanka and provide offshore financial services. So we are working on that. This is also one area. We are seeing a lot of Sri Lankan professionals who are working abroad in the financial sectors. They have expertise and they have knowledge, and there will be opportunities here. On this business, one thing I would like to highlight is not when someone works abroad for a long period, and if you come back and expect that you would get the same kind of nominal salaries or kind of, if you earn $10,000 per month in that, if you come here and expect same amount of salary, you are not going to get that at all. That's because Sri Lanka also want to be competitive. You have to, when you come here, you have to compete with local talents. There are a lot of other people, as already mentioned, coming back to work. And you have to have a certain expectation of reasonable income, which has to be competitive, as well as reasonable for you to live in a country like Sri Lanka. If you want a salary that you earn in Australia, UK, or USA, and if you want to live here, that's not going to work. Then if that is the case, then we will not be competitive. You have to come here, look at the situation, and assess what are the expenses and what are the reasonable salary, then you need to compete. That is where one can success. So you have to make up that mind and come here. So that's basically if anyone who is willing to, I'm sure the work in Sri Lanka will help you a lot on these aspects. And let me also share, this is a very interesting topic for me. Let me share some of the personal experience that I also had sometimes. Obviously, I'm a central banker who has been working at the central bank now 22 years, joined as a staff officer at grade 1 just after graduation back in 1991. Then I had the opportunity to go to Australia to my master's and PhD with my young family. Once you go there and live there for 5 years, it's always difficult to make a decision to come back, especially during that period. And this was going on. It was during that period when I was in Australia, central bank building was bombed, and 40 of our colleagues died. And then when I was completing my PhD, I had a good opportunity to work there, and my wife was already working, and as IT consultant, had a very good salary and very good income. We had a very good life there. And my 2 kids, one was just started school at 6 years old, other one was born there. And there's a lot of pressure for me not to come back, given the opportunities that I had there. But I decided to come back. So important thing is that you still, first you need to make that commitment. It's like a marriage. If you think that is the right partner, then you have to make that commitment first. Then you meet the challenges. If you wait until you find all things right, you will never get married. So that's my experience. So I first made that commitment, despite my family and wife, everyone, my family members did not want for me to come back. You pay the small bond for the central bank, and you stay back. I said, no, this is, I think, place that I want to live. And I made that decision first and gave it up, came back. And during the first 6 months, that period was a very, even first year, very tough time. My daughter who went to primary school there could not find a school to go until 6 months I arrived here. My wife, who was a good IT consultant with good experience, could not find a job. And I did not have a place to live because I didn't have my own house. I had only a land. I had to build a house. I had to find rent a place about 20 kilometers away from the Colombo. I was still a junior economist at the central bank. That was the only thing that I had at that time with my young family. And still, then that's a difficult time. And then after 6 months, I was finally able to get my elder daughter to a school, private school, with a lot of effort. And then next year, my younger daughter who started schooling at a good school, so I was able to get that. Then my wife was able to get a research job. Then I started building the house, and then I make progress through my central banking career. And after some time, again, my family went back for another 3 years. I stayed here. My family went back to Australia, lived another 3 years. Even that time, when my kids were a little bigger, they were 8, 9 years old, then they also settled well, and then also, again, they had to come back. That was also difficult. But it's easier now. I had a place to live here. I had a kind of a stable job here, so that was not that difficult. But the difficult thing is that once you make that decision, and then once you make the commitment, and when I look back, I can be very satisfied of the decision that I made. There are some of the friends who did not make that difficult decision at that time, who lived back there, who chose to live there. Now they regret. Now they say, you made the right decision at that time. Although we took the easy path, and if you look at the career progression and satisfaction of what we are doing, and even after 20 years, a lot of my friends who are still doing the same kind of university academic, or some management position in a company or private sector, or some government office, taxation office or somewhere. Whereas I have made my life here, very satisfied with my family. Even my kids now, still they are, I can see kids are still studying abroad, but they would love to come back all the time, whenever there's a vacation. Even 2 weeks, they want to come back to Sri Lanka. They have a lot of friends here, or families are here, and they want to live here. Although they study there, they have determined to come back and work here. So once you get to make that decision, I'm sure you will love it. So that's part of my personal experience. I'm glad that first time I'm sharing this in public. I think this is the best place opportunity that I had to share with this kind of audience. I think you would, so young people, I'm sure now if you look at the situation, it's much more easier for you to make that decision. That's why we see instead of brain drain, it's kind of see brain drain. That's why you have to be very careful. If you want to come back, you have to get used to this kind of situation. You have to be competitive in this environment, because we have a lot of talented, educated youth who are coming out of the education system competing with you. They all are very good. That's where you have to be, and also we have to be competitive in doing the business. That is where we can grow. So I'm sure those people like you can make a lot of contributions at different levels. You can come as a graduate just after graduating from the university and can start a small business, so can join as a junior person in a company in the private sector, perhaps in the government. Even central bank, we are open. When we recruit people, we take all kind of graduates if they as a first class or kind of a high GPA, they can sit for the competitive exam. If you can be competitive and come to the top, we'll guarantee that you will be recruited and have a good career at the central bank. Even though I'm sure private sector, that is the beginning of the career. And the middle level also, we find a lot of people with experience and come and make contributions. I'm sure the private sector people, companies are hiring those people, and they can make good contributions. And even at top level, even for the government and the private sector, you can see even in here, there are a number of CEOs in government institutions also. I can give some examples. For example, Chairman VY is an Australian citizen who is Sri Lankan, come back and now doing here. Chairman of the PR Petroleum Resource Development, Mr. Salih Kromsur, is also kind of expatriate who has come back and making contributions. There are a number of people like that. I'm sure in the private sector there are a large number like that, come in at higher level and making contributions. Everyone who comes here will have to accept and used to live in this situation. This is a different environment, different way of doing business. You have to accept that, you have to get used to that, and then you start, then you will prosper. With that, I'll stop, and I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion. Thank you.